Hello everyone and welcome back to round 19 of season 1 of our F1 Manager McLaren career mode. Yesterday we return once again. If you missed out on the video that went live on Thursday, if I remember correctly, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. Of course, the Japanese Grand Prix, very interesting one, changeable conditions, and one of our drivers had a bit of a nightmare. But of course, yeah, we've still obviously got our own things going on in this series, but to be honest, with 4 races to go, I'm kind of getting quite intrigued by the battle going on at the top of the championship. Ferrari still lead the constructors by 74 points. We've got a 12-point gap over Alpine behind us, who have a further 11 over Alfa Romeo. But drivers championship-wise, 13 points cover our top 3 as we head towards the Circuit of the Americas this weekend. Sainz is somehow still leading this championship, despite it appears trying to do everything he possibly can not to win it. So we don't really know what's going on with Carlos Sainz at the moment, but Charles Leclerc is now just 3 points back with Max Verstappen, a further 10 behind the Monegasque driver. But yeah, heading towards the US Grand Prix though, of course, like I said, 4 races to go of the campaign. All of our focus now has really shifted onto the Season 2 cars, so you can see we've actually got some research being completed there on some different parts of the car. We haven't got any new upgrades in the works for this year's car, so we are kind of hoping that we can hang on to P4 obviously, in the Constructors' Championship late on in this career mode. But of course as well, if you're new around here, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed to the channel. At the time of recording this, we are less than 300 subscribers away from 100k. It is ridiculously close now. It is hopefully a case of when rather than if. But of course, yeah, US Grand Prix though, 4 races to go of this championship. We've got to keep doing what we're doing. I'm going to try and save a few pennies as well, ready for the final few races. Ready for season 2 even, I should say, of this campaign. But yeah, let's head out though to COTA.
Welcome to the United States Grand Prix. We're in Austin, but there are no wild cowboys on the track this weekend, just some serious horsepower. It's sure to be a race to remember. The Circuit of the Americas has it all. Twists and turns, steep climbs, fast corners, and a power-hungry Sector 2. Quite a headache to balance, even if teams will be looking at maximising downforce overall. With the season nearly concluded, time is running out for the teams. Can anyone make a last-minute breakthrough? Can the leading drivers hold on? Only time will tell. The weekend begins here.
Right, well, here we are then, back at the Circuit of the Americas, and it just doesn't look like we're going to get through a weekend at the moment without any rain there. Moderate rain predicted for Saturday's qualifying running, but to be honest, that doesn't scare me all too much. Often, that actually gives us a good opportunity to try and move our way up the order then. But as always, we're going to try and tweak some things on the setup, get the car ready for the first runs here in free practice. Again, like we're always doing, at the moment, I'm trying out different concepts with both cars and then kind of just sort of seeing what works on one to try and help the other driver out. Some numbers are pretty consistent across the board every weekend, but there are some tweaks and changes that we have to make each time round. But both cars ready, let's get out there. One thing I did forget to mention, though, was the fact that both drivers are actually taking some fresh components this weekend, and I've just noticed Lando Norris might need a new gearbox as well, so going to have to be a bit careful with that one, just monitor how things go. But yeah, both cars with a fresh energy store in the back of the cars this weekend, just to make sure that we see them through to the end of the year with competent machinery underneath them. So yeah, we're going to be starting slightly out of position, but like I said, if we get a good qualifying under our belt, then it's not going to make the world of difference. We've got multiple cars off. Looks like, I think that's an AlphaTauri off down at the hairpin. Let's wait and see. Pierre Gasly's looped it round. Seems like an odd place to go. We'll bring both cars in though, try and see what useful data we've got early on in the session. But yeah, what has Pierre Gasly done there then? Tsunoda, oh, don't say the AlphaTauris have collided. AlphaTauris, yep, heading down the hill. Has Tsunoda and Gasly come together? Let's have a look. Yes, they have. Not really what you want to do in free practice 1, lads. Of course, still rumours that Pierre Gasly could be off elsewhere for Season 2. That does not do them any favours. That is going to make a long weekend here incredibly long. Well, that early virtual safety car then did certainly hinder quite a few people's early runs, but we've sent both cars back out. Of course, we've made some setup tweaks. So far, I think we've actually hit the ground running even, I should say, early on here in FP1, but I am still a bit worried. I'm tempted just to put a completely fresh gearbox into Lando Norris's car ready for qualifying as well. Like I said, we're already going to be starting out of position, maybe starting at the back. Won't actually do too much damage here, but I do now start to worry after the Alpine success last weekend about whether we are going to try and have to hang on into the final few races of this campaign. 12 points is not a particularly large gap, even if the top 6 are just consistently way out in front. George Russell has not been particularly brilliant throughout most of the year, so we are going to have to be careful. Oh, and we got another virtual safety car. One of the Aston Martins now appears to have gone off. Sebastian Vettel has completely binned it down at the end of the back straight, and we're going to have to bring both cars in again, so a very, very interrupted session here from the Circuit of the Americas there. Sebastian Vettel is out of FP1 as well. Seb just had a complete brake failure. That's got to be the only thing I can think of. You can see him locking up, trying to get the car slowed down, and smack straight into the wall there. Luckily, we've got those very, very sturdy barriers down at the end of that back straight. But Sebastian Vettel then out of FP1 as well here, and no one is seemingly able to get any particularly valuable data out of this session. It has been a tough old FP1 here so far. Well, getting both cars back out then for a final 15-minute blast here in FP1. But like I said, you know, race sim runs normally take about 25 minutes on F1 Manager. Just, you know, you get everything dialed in and you get the most detail back from your team. If you're having a virtual safety car about every 18 minutes or so, it does make things rather difficult to try and get those that data that you need. But of course, everyone in the same position there. Valtteri Bottas looking incredibly competitive, and Ferrari a little way off the pace here early on in the weekend. Of course, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz still absolutely in that title fight. Hamilton and Checo Perez, 70 points out with 4 races to go, is highly unlikely they'll get back into it. But, you know, Max, Leclerc and Sainz all still taking points out of each other constantly. You know, say for example one of those drivers is able to string together 4 race victories. It's not out the realms of possibility they could be close. A few minutes left though on the clock here from free practice, and we've actually had to send both cars back out on a set of soft compound tyres, which to be honest I very rarely do. Normally I try and make it through an entire FP1 session just on one set of the medium tyres there, which someone else has apparently ran wide somewhere on the lap. But yeah, the data seems okay. I think we've got the setups pretty much as well dialed in as we can. Nicholas Latifi's ran wide through turn 16. Who would ever have seen that coming? But yeah, let's dive into qualifying though here from Kota. I am going to put that fresh gearbox into the back of Lando Norris's car. I think it's just a change that needs to be made, so we don't have to worry about it. Plus, if he's already starting out of position, we may as well try and give him all the performance we possibly can. Right, well, having a look then at the end of free practice results there. A lot of cars with grid penalties. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Bottas, Russell, Norris, Gasly, Oscar Piastri and Tsunoda all taking grid penalties ready for this weekend, so we certainly are going to see a lot of cars out of position. I've actually put an entire fresh engine into the back of Lando Norris's car, and I've given Oscar Piastri a couple of new components as well. I thought if we're starting out of position, we may as well just go all out here to make sure they've both got enough performance late on into the year. So qualifying doesn't really matter this weekend. I think we're starting from the back no matter really anything that goes down. And there we go, official confirmation of that. 19 place grid penalties for both Oscar and Lando Norris, so they are pretty much guaranteed to be starting at the rear of the field. Honestly, it's tempting just to go out for one run in Q1 and just save the tyres ready for the rest of the weekend, because you never know when they'll be handy. Sending both cars out into the circuit, and apparently Lance Stroll has already decided he's going to start locking up around the place. But Oscar Piastri is going to be the first of our cars out onto a run. Like I said, we're just going to give them one shot each. If they make it through, they make it through. If they don't, well, we're starting at the back either way. So like I said, we may as well just save tyres ready for Grand Prix Sunday. Are we meant to see any rain though? None predicted early on here in Q1 at least. So another weekend where it says we're going to get a lot of rain, and then we seemingly get away with some of it. All a little bit weird and wonderful in the world of F1 Manager there. But Oscar Piastri ran in the final couple of corners to start his first lap. He should be out of too much traffic. He's only going to have to try and navigate Yuki Tsunoda at some point on this lap. Lando Norris will have, I think, Sir Lance in the way there, as he's got an Alfa Romeo closing in. Lando Norris just going to throw it through the final couple of corners there, make sure he's still ahead of that Alpine, and he can get on to his run. Well, our cars are the last ones to set times on the board, as Pierre Gasly is apparently locked up somewhere. I'm hoping his teammate has not held up Lando Norris, which he has not. Pretty even in Sector 2. Lando Norris he definitely has been held up then by Yuki Tsunoda there, so we'll be down on time as we round through the final couple of corners. However, there is quite a big gap down to Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, as well as those Williams, as Oscar Piastri then rounding out the final corner. Max Verstappen currently setting the pace on a 34.5. Oscar Piastri goes 10th on a 35.6 there. Lando Norris, like I said, probably going to be about half second away, so should slot in P13 between Ocon and Zhou, up over the line, 36 flat, and he goes P13 behind Ocon and Zhou Guanyu. Will that be enough to see him through into Q2? Oh, I think it actually should be. It looks like we are fairly competitive here. Well, there we go then, the end of Q1. Max Verstappen fastest there, 10th clear of Carlos Sainz. Hamilton in P3, once again showing his pace in that Mercedes. Of course, absolutely loves this COTA circuit. But yeah, if Oscar Piastri is able to go P10, I wonder just how much quicker Lando Norris would be able to go had he not been held up there. And Gasly going quicker than George Russell, as well as Valtteri Bottas. Things that are interesting to see. Okay, so now things are certainly getting interesting then here in COTA. There's a lot of rain coming in Q2. You can see in about, 2 minutes or so, the rain is meant to wrap up. So everyone that hasn't come out onto the circuit yet, which to be said is quite a lot of cars, we might be able to absolutely mug our way into Q3 here, just by doing a run on a set of softs before the rain appears. See, 2 minutes until that rain starts falling there. We've got Max Verstappen getting in the way of both of our cars down at the end of Sector 2 there. Come on, this is ridiculous. F1 Manager, desperately. When F1 Manager 23 comes out, I'm guessing there is going to be one. I mean, look at that. Max Verstappen is just held up Oscar Piastri throughout about 4 corners there. And he won't get penalised for that. He'll get away with that because that's just how this game works. But rounding through the final few turns, now I want to absolutely see it bucket it down so Max Verstappen is completely screwed. But through the final couple of corners for Lando Norris, then Gasly goes fastest on a 35.7. So I don't think anyone has been able to get a particularly good run. Not really too sure why qualifying is being done. It looks to be at about 7 PM at night here at COTA, but Lando Norris goes 0.07 of a second away. Oscar Piastri 1 second back. I now just want to see to make sure that they hold up Max Verstappen as well, because I'm really hoping both of our cars do. Not that I'm salty or anything on F1 Manager, it just frustrates me there as, come on Oscar, you got to do better than that. Will Lando Norris be able to keep the Dutchman at bay? A little bit, I suppose. And there we go. Everyone else still trying to do their runs. Light rain has appeared. Let's watch us hopefully stay in 4th and 7th. Well, that is rather impressive. It's gone straight to 4 mil of water. Yuki Tsunoda is still out there, but he is 36 seconds off the pace. Could we see Charles Leclerc make it into Q3, despite being 12 seconds a lap slower? Alonso has gone 41 seconds slower than his fellow Spaniard, Carlos Sainz. F1 Manager, I've just given it some stick, but you do get some hilarious moments still. There we go then, Q2 times on the ball. Carlos Sainz fastest there by 0.8 of a second over Max Verstappen, but Gasly and Norris both making it into Q3. They're quicker than Max. Oscar Piastri down in P8 there, so we've accidentally got both cars into Q3, because apparently that's what I do on this game. Charles Leclerc, though, out in Q2, and happily for us, so is Fernando Alonso, so he's going to be starting a bit further down the roster as well, but with so many cars with penalties in front of him, he's probably still going to start in the top 6. This is what else I love about F1 Manager. We literally went from nothing to 5 mil of rain, and then 10 minutes later it's all completely disappeared again. I don't know what the drainage system is like around COTA, but this track must be entirely made of cattle grids or something to be able to get rid of water that quickly there. Max Verstappen, though, currently fastest out of the first runs. Hamilton 0.2 away, of course. Carlos Sainz with some grid penalties as well down in P3, as Perez now goes fastest, quicker than the Dutchman, so that's quite a surprise to see early on in this session, as Oscar Piastri just wiggles his way around the Haas car of Kevin Magnussen. Of course, I'm sure they'd want a good qualifying result here as well. Obviously, home Grand Prix for the Haas team. Have really struggled a bit more than I think a lot of us were expecting this season in F1 Manager. K-Mag has been pretty damn good, but Mick Schumacher, I think, has scored like 2 points all year so far. He just really has not been able to contribute to that team. And of course, Magnussen, he's often there or thereabouts, but I think if I look back through the data, I'd be quite surprised just how often he hasn't scored points this year, rather than how often he has, because he's still on a worryingly low total of points there, as I'm getting a bit worried. Oscar Piastri coming up against, I think this has got to be Max Verstappen in his Red Bull car once again, and the Dutchman has already frustrated me so far this weekend. Is he going to do so again there, as you actually can see hurrying up through the final sector? Lando Norris is apparently battling with Kevin Magnussen as well. I mean, it's just those little things. An F1 manager, I know I do moan about it a lot, but just needs to get ironed out, ready for the new game, of course, like I said, that I'm hoping is going to be arriving in 2023, because I do genuinely still find this game very good fun. I've been quite surprised, actually, you know, how much the interest has fallen off for a lot of people, but I think it is just, you know, those subtle little nuances there, as Oscar Piastri goes up into P8, between Ocon and Kevin Magnussen. How much quicker will Lando Norris be able to go then as he comes around the final corner? Hopefully go quicker than the Alpine car up over the line, and he will go slower than Oscar Piastri after the first run. Not what I was expecting, but he did get held up. Oscar Piastri then round in the final corner to start his final lap here of qualifying, when I'm a bit worried Lando Norris, he was a bit tight on time trying to head through the final couple of turns. Will Lando Norris be able to get onto a final run here in Q3? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. He will, luckily. There we go. 4 seconds on the clock as Lando Norris makes it through there, reminiscent of Jenson Button back at the 2009 Spanish Grand Prix, of course, for the few of you here that remember all those Brawn GP, the glory days that they were just for, of course, that one season. Managed to get on to qualifying with like less than a second left of his final lap, as George Russell is basically going to ruin Lando Norris's final lap. That didn't happen to Jenson Button, if I remember correctly, so that is rather frustrating there, as Sector 1 times he somehow still did go quicker than his teammate there. But Max Verstappen goes back up to fastest then ahead of Sergio Perez. I think Red Bull are obviously going to be completely throwing everything behind the Dutchman between now and the end of the year if he wants to try and overhaul both of those Ferrari cars. Hamilton, quite clear, Mercedes this weekend just missing a little bit there as Perez does improve, but nowhere near close enough to get to the Dutchman there. Magnussen bumps both of our cars back down into 9th and 10th place there. Gasly does improve, only 4 tenths away from George Russell there. Of course, Bottas not in Q3 either around this venue, as Oscar Piastri still finding time as he does a 38.9 at the end of Sector 2 there, just under a tenth slower than Lando Norris. So will we see Oscar Piastri able to improve? Surely he can go back quicker than Kevin Magnussen there. Esteban Ocon not able to find any more time either. Oscar Piastri goes into 7th place, and this means Lando Norris could be actually very, very close to Pierre Gasly there as he winds his way through the final couple of corners. He's got to be at most about a tenth away as he rounds through the final few turns there. Big send from Lando Norris through the final corner up towards the start-finish line. He is going to go into P7 there. Less than a tenth away from Pierre Gasly, but like I said, both cars will be starting from the rear of the field there. Sainz actually improved up to P2 as well, but yeah, let's get into it though. It's time ready for the US Grand Prix.
The grid is packed and there's electricity in the air, but there's no surprises in that. It's race day.
Qualifying went well for McLaren, and they're set to start this race feeling quite comfortable. We saw a reasonable push from Mercedes in qualifying, and they'll have plenty of opportunities here to achieve a great result. And the clouds today look very ominous, which means that teams may have to contend with rain at some point during the race.
No doubt there's a lot to contend with here at the United States Grand Prix. It's going to be a thrilling outcome to a thrilling weekend.
Well, here we are then, having a look towards the US Grand Prix. In terms of strategy today, everywhere reckons it's a 2-stop, which is rather interesting, which probably is actually the case for Oscar Piastri. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually see if we can go mediums over onto hards. We'll try and trash that stop. It's going to be tight. Oscar Piastri, I think, actually will probably need a soft compound run late on in the afternoon there. But Lando Norris, he's pretty damn... Oh, I forgot to save it. I always forget to save it on F1 Manager there. But yeah, Lando Norris, like I said, you know, is often very, very good, actually, at keeping his tyres in good check over these Grand Prix. So I'm actually going to risk it with him and try and put him onto a... I wanted the hards and then the mediums to see him through to the end of the Grand Prix. There are, of course, 56 laps. Yeah, 56 laps around the US Grand Prix circuit. So if you can do just over half the race on those hards, then we've got a good fighting chance there. But not actually starting last ready for this Grand Prix. We have actually bumped the car up ever so slightly. So even though we're starting pretty much at the rear of the field, I may as well top it up with fuel then so we can really try and push on throughout the Grand Prix. But yeah, let's get into it though. US Grand Prix, we need to try and score good points here today, despite the fact we're right at the rear of the field.
It's a somewhat overcast day for the drivers, who've now taken position on the grid. And there's Lando Norris. They'll be starting the race from the bottom half of the grid, so there's a fair bit of ground to make up. And it's the other McLaren. Slower than most yesterday, so today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. Everything's been building to this. Sit tight and get ready. It's the United States Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
There we go then, lights out and away we go. Yuki Tsunoda was the car starting behind us, ready for this one, but such a mixed up grid here at COTA that I think just trying to keep it clean and tidy in towards someone there. Hamilton already trying to look around the outside of Checo Perez, and of course there's still ongoing battle for P4 even I should say, in the championship. But what worries me is Esteban Ocon starting right up towards the front as well there. And Alonso has made progress. We've got yellow flags out in Sector 1. I can't see anyone going slowly. So Yuki Tsunoda, I think there. No, Yuki Tsunoda's still there running just ahead of Oscar Piastri. Albon apparently ran wide there as Nicholas Latifi has dropped back down right towards the rear of the field. But this is a huge opportunity for Max Verstappen there. Sainz and Leclerc both starting way outside the top 10. If the Dutchman can just absolutely lead this thing from the front, which he's probably going to be able to with Perez as a rear gunner behind him, he can leapfrog and jump straight to the lead of the championship with just 3 races to go of this campaign there. We might need to start trying to push on already, but I can see Tsunoda is on a set of soft compound tyres. It looks like there's a handful of cars on softs then ready for the start of this Grand Prix. There, Perez and Hamilton there, as well as Valtteri Bottas just inside the top 10, so got to be careful of Alpine as well still, potentially scoring big points late on in the campaign. But early laps here, I don't mind if Tsunoda gets past us. I think we've just got to focus on trying to extend this gap as long as possible. There is Lando Norris is not going to give up on it just yet with Yuki Tsunoda. We've just got to try and pick off the back market cars, you know, those Williams and the Aston Martins, and sort of see where we end up as Lance Stroll actually up inside the top 10, ready for the start of this Grand Prix. It is going to be a mixed-up race. There is going to be a lot of movement going on. As you can see, Oscar Piastri there potentially trying to look up the inside of Lando Norris through the final corner. I think that's probably a fairly sensible move, of course, because he is on those softer compounded tyres. I think we tell Lando not to fight his teammate. Don't often do this there, as Latifi is just getting shuffled back to the rear of the field. But down the middle goes Oscar Piastri there, back at turn 1. Hopefully he can try and move past Latifi as well as we head down the hill. And there we go. Lando Norris has led him by, and he will get past Latifi as well there. So good little moves done by Oscar. Hopefully Lando Norris can try and move past him as well. But yeah, this hopefully is going to be a race that comes back to us later on in the afternoon. As look at Latifi trying to get back around the outside there of Oscar Piastri. Let's start using a bit of fuel. Let's try and push on. Lando Norris to the outside of Latifi on the run back up towards turn 1 there. But certainly is losing a bit of time stuck behind that Williams car early on in the race. Swoops around the outside there, pinches him beautifully to the apex there, and will cut in front of the Williams off the corner. But yeah, like I said, of course, it is just going to be about managing early on in this race. Perez now has actually taken the lead from Max Verstappen there, so not too sure what's going on down at Red Bull. That might leave the Dutchman vulnerable to Lewis Hamilton. There is Ocon still keeping his fellow Frenchman Pierre Gasly at bay, and Alonso is just waiting in the wings. Oh, here we go. Oscar Piastri lap 4 trying to get up the inside of Yuki Tsunoda there. It'll be the outside ready for the next corner, but let's try and just get Oscar pushing on a little bit more. It is going to be quite interesting to see just how far Piastri can go in this race, of course, because that will give Lando Norris some good data for later on in the day. But yeah, Perez, Hamilton, Verstappen actually is retaking the lead once again there, as we're going to try and see if Oscar Piastri can make a move on Tsunoda as we head down the back straight there. You can see both cars getting some DRS off of the Williams in front there. We got 3 of the slower cars in front of us. As oh, here comes Lando Norris potentially there. Got a little bit nervous that he might go into the back of his teammate, but yeah, mission failed that time round. It's just so difficult when you've got these slower cars in the DRS trains behind each other. You just can't really find a way around them, as you just see Latifi trundling around in the background. Sebastian Vettel, Alex Albon side by side this time around as we head down the back straight. Looks like Seb has still got the DRS though, so Albon now. I mean, Williams is still by far and away the slowest car on the grid there. As you can see, Sebastian Vettel sails past the Williams. Yuki Tsunoda, again, not brave enough to make anything happen. But look already how much of a beating those soft compound tyres are taking for the front runners. They're already down below 60%. It's probably going to be about lap 15 they have to pit. Maybe they won't even go that far. Oscar Piastri then has finally made a move work on Sebastian Vettel in this GP, as Tsunoda somehow got round Albon as well. I must have completely missed that one. But let's get Oscar then up onto the overtake mode, ready to head down the back straight. We need to try and get past this Williams car. I need to do the same with Lando Norris on Sebastian Vettel just in front of him. Tough old start to this race, of course. It's not really particularly easy on F1 Manager to try and carve your way from the back of the field, like I said, especially with some of the DRS trains there. But Albon with no DRS is certainly going to make that a whole lot easier. There as Oscar Piastri will move through. Lando Norris in the background to the inside of Sebastian Vettel there. And I'm actually going to leave him in the overtake mode to try and see if we can find a way around Albon as well through these final couple of corners. But here comes Sebastian Vettel back to the inside of Lando Norris there. He's still going to be able to keep the nose up the inside of the German there. And I mean, surely Lando Norris can complete this move as we head out of the final couple of turns. I'm going to make sure to bring Oscar Piastri back down, side by side, out through the final couple of corners, similar to Seb and Kevin Magnussen in the real-life Grand Prix. Remember, Lando Norris is the only car to have started this race on the set of the hard compound tyres, and he's finally made it through there. Even looks to potentially have a look to the inside of Albon through the final corner. But look at this, Seb's still not giving up on it. As we head back down towards turn 1 there, Albon still has the DRS off those cars in front, so Lando Norris can't really do a lot about that either. And we're just going to have to keep trying to push on and find another opportunity. And here now goes Lando Norris down the back straight then to the inside of Alex Albon. A pretty easy move once the Williams had lost the DRS there again. So P17, P16 early on in this GP. It is slow progress early on, but I am sort of looking Esteban Ocon there, causing that huge train all the way down to, I think, Carlos Sainz there in P9. And, of course, some of those soft compound runners are going to have to box rather soon. We've got yellow flags out. Someone's been... Oh, it's an Alpine, I think. Did I just see? Yeah, Fernando Alonso going backwards then in this Grand Prix. Alonso locked up down at turn 12. Of course, in that big gaggle of cars there. And perhaps his soft compound tyres starting to run off a little bit. Fancies a picnic. Why wouldn't you, eh? Turn 10 seems like a fairly nice place to do it around this venue. But Perez, Hamilton, Gasly, Bottas all into the pits then at the end of that lap there. So I don't think it's going to be long before Yuki Tsunoda is into the pit lane as well. So this works out rather nicely for us early on in the day. We can kind of get a look as to where we're hopefully going to be. As you can see, Sainz is already then back up to P3 in this Grand Prix. But Hamilton and Perez, they're heading back out of the pits. Perez still in P6 there, not far behind Zhou Guanyu. Oscar Piastri will climb closer to the top 10 as Tsunoda again looking for something down at turn 1, but is not going to be able to find an opportunity. So that's worked out quite nicely then. Gasly as well getting caught up in the Bottas and Vettel there, you can see as well, just re-emerging, as Alonso now in that Alpine is going to be way down the order. That does me a lot of favours. So we've got more cars into the pits this time around. Yuki Tsunoda, so Norris now back to P13 just behind his teammate. Oscar is doing very, very well early on in this race, but he is slightly taking more out of the tyres than a lot of the other cars around him. I want to try and get him to about lap 22, because then I do think 34 laps on a set of hards might be possible towards the end. Or I do a double medium stint with Oscar and then go softs to the flag. Don't really know what's going to be the way to do this early on. I think we just need to try and burn off some of this fuel. We can see now Charles Leclerc has made a move work on Sir Lancelot, but we need Oscar Piastri to try and get a run on Lance as well there. To see Leclerc's probably going to be able to try and make another move work down the back straight. Could we try and get both of our cars to leapfrog the Aston Martin in one swoop there? As you can already see, Gasly straight to the back of our car once again there. As old Lance Stroll, some dangerous blockings just like he did in the real life Grand Prix there, will go defensive, but it's pretty much for nothing as we head down the back straight. Lando Norris should really be looking to try and get the run to the inside there, and he thinks about it down the end of the back straight, but can't quite make it happen this time round. Oscar Piastri's got to run away again. Lando Norris has got to try and put another car between himself and Gasly. Oh, we can see now Gasly trying to look around the outside of Lando Norris as we head down the hill. Bottas to the inside there, 3 wide behind Lance Stroll in this Grand Prix. This is getting all a little bit crazy early on in the GP. We're only on lap 14, lads, but clearly everyone wants to try and make moves happen there. As look at this, Gasly now trying to have a look past Lance Stroll. Lando Norris is going to try and follow him by as we head down this straight. They're 3 wide again here at COTA, and will Lando Norris be able to make it work? Bottas somehow gets it slowed down between them there as we head down into Sector 3, but I fear that Bottas has been able to pull off the move on Lando Norris as well then, so that's not really what we wanted to see early on in this GP. Of course, remember, we're basically doing the same strategy as them between now and the checkered flag there, as Lando Norris launches it back to the inside of the flying fin, won't make it work, and now Oscar Piastri's got to try and push on a little bit more to keep these cars at bay. More yellow flags out in Sector 3. Can't see anyone that's gone off the circuit there, as Sainz is in the pit lane. Yuki Tsunoda further back, not really too worried about that at the moment. But yeah, Sainz into the pits then will promote Oscar Piastri, I think, just inside the top 10. No, actually, looking at it, Sainz stays ahead of Leclerc there, so that's interesting in their little championship gambit. 13 points, of course, between Verstappen and Sainz, so Sainz needs to finish P4 if he wants to keep the lead of this championship. But if he were to finish 4th, Leclerc finished P3, and Verstappen to win, they could be tied on points, depending on who takes fastest lap. Oh, Bottas has made the move work on Oscar Piastri then in this Grand Prix. Ocon's actually just come out of the pit lane as well, between Lando Norris and our other car as well. So yeah, it really does seem like it is going to have to be one of those races where potentially we get a lucky safety car to bring us back into things. But yeah, Oscar Piastri's medium tyres aren't going as well as I thought they would be. I was hoping they were still going to be sort of around the 50-60% mark at this point of the race. As all you can see there, Lando Norris still definitely trying to make moves work in this Grand Prix. The hard tyres, though, I really cannot work out whether they're doing better or worse than I expected. So here we go, Ocon now trying to make a move on Oscar Piastri. There's just overtakes going on everywhere at the moment. Magnussen and George Russell duking out behind Lando Norris. I think Lando might be able to hang on to the place for now. But yeah, I think it's going to be a matter of just a couple of laps before we pit Oscar Piastri there. And I think he is actually going to have to go hards and then softs to the end of the Grand Prix. These mediums have not gone as far as I wanted for him. What will happen with Lando Norris is what I'm wondering as well. More pitters then. Zhou Guanyu. Charles Leclerc's pit again in this Grand Prix, so not too sure what his plan of attack is, but he's going from lap 18 there. Surely he's not going to be able to take those hards to the end of the Grand Prix. He's got to do 2/3 distance on them, and Lando Norris's tyres are looking pretty wrecked already. Are we going to see another pit stop from Charles Leclerc? Yeah, Oscar Piastri there moaning about the tyres as we come towards the end of lap 19, so we are going to box him onto that set of the hard compound at the end of this lap. As you can see, Lando Norris there still able to hang on quite nicely with these cars around him. Of course, helped, by the DRS, as George Russell has now shifted back to the front of this group. He's going to go and chase down Gasly and Valtteri Bottas up the road. But I think, we've got to start being really methodical with these battles late on in the campaign. Because, of course, although Alfa Romeo is still a threat, it is Alpine that are our big threat between now and the end of the year. So even if, AlphaTauri or Alfa Romeo are getting a few extra points on us, as long as they're also taking them away from Alpine, I don't think we can really complain all too much there, as Oscar Piastri peels into the pit lane at the end of this lap. Intrigued to see where he's going to re-emerge. Going to be around, I think, just in front of Sebastian Vettel with a bit of luck. But yeah, Lando Norris, we've just got to keep him out there for a few more laps and see just how far he can go on those tyres. Oscar Piastri then will, I think, re-emerge. I'm really hoping he's out ahead of Sebastian here, but we'll get confirmation in just a second there, as there goes the Aston Martin back up towards turn 1. No, he's going to come out behind them. That's not going to do us any favours as well. So the two Germans in front of Oscar Piastri, he's going to have his work cut out. Well, I say he's got his work cut out. It's going to make it a whole lot easier when Sebastian Vettel immediately peels into the pit lane. And now Mick Schumacher has got no DRS to defend himself. Perhaps the DRS zone around this USGP circuit maybe a bit too long there, because moves have been incredibly easy for everyone throughout the entirety of this race so far. Lando Norris still sitting in a bit of no man's land now, just behind Kevin Magnussen. He's also not far behind. But yeah, we're just doing what we're doing. Of course, always starting from the rear of the field was going to make this race difficult, but I think Lando Norris might have to adopt a two-stop strategy as well, because he has not been able to go as far as I would have liked on those hards. Oh, I really should have pit Lando Norris there, and he's got Charles Leclerc all over his gearbox, but I am going to box him onto a set of the medium compound tyres now. Of course, it means that we can send both cars out into a set of softs late on in the day, but yeah, it's a weird strategy around Kota at the moment. He's incredibly abrasive on tyres there. As having a look towards the front of the field, Max Verstappen still leading the way there, 3 seconds clear of Sergio Perez, but yeah, Hamilton and Mercedes this weekend just don't have the pace as Sainz there closing in on him. Bottas still in P5 there with Russell in hot pursuit, so it really is only Leclerc out of the big 6 that is still way out of position. Need him to try and get to the front so he can take points away from our rivals. As Lando Norris then peels into the pits, 30 laps to go of this GP, so he's probably going to do about 20 on the mediums, 10 on the softs to see us through to the checkered flag there. But yeah, like I said, really am surprised with just how bad the tyre wear has been around this venue. But, you know, the field's starting to spread out a whole lot more as we get towards half distance here. It is going to be a long old road to the finish, but if we can try and snooker away a couple of points, I'll be incredibly happy, because I think we're going to need a safety car to be able to do so there. Mick Schumacher re-emerges ahead of Lando Norris, and yeah, halfway into this race, he's gone from 18th to 16th. Stop Lando Norris, though, of course, not the first time we've overtaken Mick Schumacher in this Grand Prix, and, well, maybe I'm hoping it's the last, maybe I'm not, depending on what goes on late on in the day there. Lando Norris swoops past the Haas car. Mick Schumacher, like I mentioned earlier on, just has a torrid year. He's got yellow flags out in Sector 1. Can't see anyone going slowly. I don't know what that was. Now Lando Norris just 1 lap later, all over the back of Yuki Tsunoda as well then. So again, we're going to have to try and get him on the overtake mode. But I'm looking at Zhou Guanyu and Fernando Alonso just ahead of Oscar Piastri. I'm trying to save his battery a little bit more so we can go for a late push if we need to here. But yeah, Lando Norris then to the inside of Yuki Tsunoda. Has not had a fun weekend either as the young Japanese driver. But we're back to P14 then. And hopefully now both of our cars can close in on that Alpine and that Alpha. There we go. A few more pit stops coming in then for other cars, so I'm guessing they're going back out onto hard compound tyres. Yeah, Bottas onto the hards, Gasly onto the hards as well, as Fernando Alonso will be doing the same. So nice to know that late on in the day, of course, everyone else is also struggling on their tyre wear. So we're going to have, well, obviously, hards currently for Oscar Piastri, but when we bolt on a fresh set of softs towards the end, we're going to be very, very quick. This then, with the race just reshuffling itself, Oscar Piastri then back into P9 then of this Grand Prix, keeping Esteban Ocon at bay for now, but Lando Norris just behind him. This race is not over. We've got a good opportunity late on in the afternoon here. I'm tempted just to bring them both back down to balance so we can push late on. But yeah, the plan is in just over 10-11 laps time, we're going to box both these cars onto sets of soft compound tyres, and they should be absolutely able to fly. Sorry, yeah, in about 10 laps time, yeah. They should be able to fly through a lot of these other cars and really try and potentially give ourselves a late race opportunity. There we go. Oscar Piastri now has lost the place to Lando Norris as well. I was quite surprised, you know, in the nicest way possible to Oscar, that he'd been able to keep Lando Norris at bay for as long as he had so far this afternoon, but you can't really contend with Lando Norris in a McLaren at the moment. He is just so quick. And so consistent as well there. Ocon just pulling away ever so slightly, but honestly it wouldn't surprise me if we're 2-3 seconds a lap faster late on in this race. It is just about trying to make sure that we don't pit too early onto those softs. Got yellow flags out somewhere again. Don't know who's made that mistake, as now we're basically going to get them pushing to the end of the race. Max Verstappen with a lock-up down at turn 19. Is this going to be a whole lot of nothing? No, the Dutchman, yeah, definitely struggling there from the lead of the Grand Prix. Big mistake that we don't see often, but is still going to be out in front there by a good handful of seconds over his teammate. Yeah, 8 seconds clear still, as now the top 6 are, the big 6, sorry, are the top 6 again. But yeah, just a few more laps before we pit. Oh, no. Lando Norris loops it around at the final corner. He's not pushing or anything like that. That does not do us any favours there, so there might be something down, actually, on that part of the circuit that has forced Verstappen into an error as well. But Lando Norris gets it going. Will be back behind his teammate again. And it hasn't done his tyres any good either. Need to harvest some energy with Lando. But yeah, it is... Come on, we can't give up yet. 42, still probably a little bit too early to be going for a pit stop here. We really are just going to have to try and extend as far as possible there. Zhou Guanyu, Mick Schumacher and Charles Leclerc pit again in this Grand Prix, but they've gone on to medium, so I'm a little bit worried that the soft tyres won't go as far as we would have wanted. You know what, we'll risk it. Oscar Piastri actually got a completely fresh set of tyres. I'd forgot about that. Obviously, because I tried to make sure that we've been careful on the rubber throughout the entirety of qualifying there, only using one set of tyres because I wasn't too worried about getting knocked out early on in the sessions, has meant that we've carried through a completely fresh set ready for the Grand Prix there. So Oscar Piastri is going to peel into the pit to the end of this one. He will re-emerge then behind Fernando Alonso in this Grand Prix. Lando Norris will bring in one lap later. This, hopefully, is where this race gets spicy for us. So there we go. Oscar Piastri into the pit lane then. So hopefully, like I said, he will re-emerge ahead of Zhou Guanyu. Might end up one lap down, though, in this Grand Prix, which is not ideal. Because, of course, we're going to have to try and make places up right to the end of this Grand Prix. I'm going to tell Lando Norris to peel into the pits then at the end of this lap. But yeah, Piastri, he'll be ahead of that Red Bull. That's fine. So we don't have to worry about that. Now we just got to push right the way through to the checkered flag, as he has actually got the Williams to try and navigate first of all. And Lando Norris then into the pit lane as well, so we might be able to actually tell him just to really push on those tyres. But that's going to promote Piastri back up to 12th then. 7 seconds behind Alonso. He's taken 2 seconds out of him already on this lap. So we are really flying late on in the day there. But looking at Magnussen a bit further up the road, there are still some big old gaps between us and the front runners. There goes Oscar Piastri. Are we going to be ahead of Max Verstappen? Really got to hope so. I think we have just re-emerged ahead of the Dutchman, and I'm going to have to tell Lando Norris to push like crazy to stay ahead of him. Lando Norris, new fastest lap of the Grand Prix, is taking a little bit more out of his tyres than Oscar Piastri up the road, but I think we've got to at the moment there. They're on full attack mode right the way through to the end of this Grand Prix, but I'm looking at the gaps. Once they get past Alonso, 13 seconds up to Magnussen. It will only be one of our cars that scores points today, but which one could it potentially be there? Magnussen might have enough just to hang on. Oscar Piastri has made the move work on Fernando Alonso. You know what, I'm actually going to get him on full deploy for a couple of laps as well. They're trying to bring him closer to K-Mag, but Lando Norris then trying to get a run on Fernando Alonso down the back straight. I'm definitely going to have to bring him back down to standard mode because he's taking so much out of those tyres at the moment. But round the outside of the Alpine he goes. Fernando Alonso, nothing he can try and do defend from that one, but we've still got to push to the end. 8 laps to go of the US Grand Prix, 13 seconds up the road to Magnussen, but Oscar Piastri using that full attack mode, he should be flying. Oh, we got a safety car! We got a safety car late on in the day. What on earth's happened there? And that's going to give everyone else an opportunity to pit onto a set of fresh tyres. Has Mick Schumacher's binned it late on in this Grand Prix there, so can we get a look as to what he's managed to do? Mick Schumacher late in the day. Has he done a Sebastian Vettel from free practice there? Locks up the brakes. Yes, he has smacked straight into the wall, and that is Haas in their home Grand Prix out of the race there. But had that happened 5 seconds beforehand, we could have had an opportunity to pit there. Luckily, of course, we know Alonso will get screwed by this because Verstappen is going to be at the front of the field there. So it's lucky that we didn't pit. We've got an opportunity to save tyres. We need to bring you onto the harvesting. But it is going to be a short safety car here. Well, maybe a short safety car. Of course, races can end under safety car on F1 Manager. But are we going to see any of the other cars up the road get a chance to pit? Here we go. Safety cars ending then at the end of lap 51. We have got 4 more laps of racing here from Kota. Zhou Guanyu is closing in still, but we basically just going to have to go full attack mode on both of our cars to the end of this Grand Prix there. Everyone around us, I think, is still on old tyres, so there is a big opportunity to snooker away some points from some other cars here. Of course, those soft tyres are not going to be fun late on in the day, but Max Verstappen leads the way then ahead of Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz. This could have big championship ramifications there. Charles Leclerc is on a fresher set of mediums, so he might have a chance to move through as well. But Max Verstappen then, it's green flag racing once again here from Kota. He can go wherever he likes, but we are going to have to try and watch for our cars as well there, as I think Was that Zhou Guanyu? Yes, he has. So Zhou Guanyu and Alonso have caught up then. Green flag racing here from Coulter. As you can already see, Hamilton going on the offensive there on Carlos Sainz. Doesn't have the pace. Back down towards turn 1 there. Will we see either of our cars being able to do anything? As you can see, Charles Leclerc having to defend from Kevin Magnussen up in towards turn 1 there. Zhou Guanyu, of course, is on even fresher tyres late on in the day. But we've got to try and find a way around Kevin Magnussen off this restart. Of course, everyone is going to be trying to use everything in their battery pack and on the fuel as well. There, I forgot that we can get him to push on the fuel. But Magnussen already just causing a little bit of a train behind him. We cannot afford to let those other cars get away, because of course if we can snooker away those points from Alpine, that would be absolutely brilliant late on in the afternoon. We need Oscar Piastri to go for a send on Kevin Magnussen down the back straight. Of course, we'll have no DRS just yet, but surely we can do something against this Haas car as we head out onto the back straight there. Surely he's not going to have much to defend himself on those older medium, hard compound tyres. Of course, I know our softs are pretty wrecked at this point as well. That we really did tear through them. But no, how can we not find a way around a Haas car at the moment? We have got to get past. We've got someone else has binned it. Who's that then? In Sector 3, we've got yellow flags out. Can't see anything. Magnussen's gone round at turn 14 then. He's lost his front wing. So what? It's been a disaster for Haas over the space of just a couple of laps then, and we were trying to apply some pressure to him, and he's just locked up there and hit the wall. So nightmare for Haas late on in the Grand Prix there, but that has promoted both, well, Oscar Piastri, sorry, inside the top 10, but we need to get past Ocon up the road. Looks like we've taken too much battery out of both of our cars there. As you can see, Lando Norris is still trying to find a way around Oscar Piastri late on in the day then, but someone else, Carlos Sainz has pit. No, he's locked up down at turn 19. Carlos Sainz, another race where he's potentially bottled it then. You can see trying to keep Perez under pressure, and I cannot believe that. Max Verstappen is going to leave the US Grand Prix leading the Drivers' World Championship despite coming into it in P3 there. Another bottle by Carlos Sainz in this championship, but we need Leclerc to move past Esteban Ocon late on in the day. Ocon trying to hang on to the DRS of the cars in front of him, but both of our drivers' sets of tyres are falling off the cliff as well. But surely Charles Leclerc, he's going to be able to get past that Alpine and bump it back down into P8 there. I mean, it would be a miracle. We never should have been in a situation where we could potentially be outscoring Alpine late on in the afternoon. This race really did get turned on its head by virtue of that Mick Schumacher incident there. But of course, DRS has been re-enabled for these final couple of laps. So Charles Leclerc, surely now, with Ocon, nothing he can do to defend himself. Surely the Alpine is going to drop back down the order here as Charles Leclerc tucked up in that DRS. Is he going to be able to go for something? He's having a look to the inside, but I think Ocon, somehow that Alpine has got enough straight line speed there. As we head down in towards Sector 3, we need to see Charles Leclerc go for something, because I'm not sure we're going to be able to try and get around the Ferrari car. It might just have a bit too much performance here. Russell has moved past Lewis Hamilton late on in the day to bump himself up into the podium places. But I cannot believe it's another race where we're seeing Carlos Sainz throw away what was actually quite an extensive championship lead just a few weekends ago. Max Verstappen looks like he's going to bring home 25 points here from Cota. Charles Leclerc might bring home 4. It might be more, it might be less. We've still got one more lap to go of this afternoon's Grand Prix there. But Verstappen leads the way then. Here goes Charles Leclerc, potentially looking for a move on Esteban Ocon as we head back down towards someone there. Lando Norris has picked up fastest lap bonus point as well, so that will surely do him a favour. There goes Charles Leclerc to the inside of Ocon through turn 1, and Oscar Piastri has got to be there to try and capitalise off the corner. Can't quite do anything just yet, but we might be able to get a run down the back straight depending on how much straight line speed that Alpine has got in the range of Charles Leclerc just in front of him. We've got to try and see Leclerc break away. Let's see what Oscar Piastri is going to be able to do on this final lap of the Grand Prix. You know what, we'll go full attack mode. Both drivers on their sets of tyres, their overtake mode as well. We've got to give it everything on this final lap there as Oscar Piastri, I mean, Ocon is going to be so far behind Charles Leclerc up the road. Surely we can try and get something done as we head out onto the back straight. Overtake failed, but he's still going to have the DRS. He's still got an opportunity to get a run on Esteban Ocon here. To the inside goes Oscar Piastri on the man that could have potentially been his teammate in real life 2023. He looks for it, but he can't find a way through on Esteban just yet there. Carlos Sainz has recovered back to P13, but I don't think we're going to be able to find anything through these final couple of corners of this Grand Prix there. We've got to make sure we keep Fernando Alonso at bay just behind, but it looks like Max Verstappen is going to come through there, survive the pressure from the safety car restart. The Dutchman will come through to take yet another victory late on in this campaign, and doing so takes the lead of the Drivers' World Championship there. Perez in P2 ahead of Hamilton, who just about gets back past George Russell there on the final lap. Bottas a brilliant P5 ahead of Gasly, Leclerc. Ocon hangs on ahead of Oscar and Lando Norris there, with Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, Sainz tied with Tsunoda apparently over the line. That is rather impressive. Zhou Guanyu, and then you've got the backmarker cars there. What an end to the US Grand Prix.
It was such a joy to watch McLaren's driver give it their all. McLaren have shown some serious chops here. A good result for the team from Surrey.
Yes, there's definitely cause for celebration here. This team can take anything that's thrown at them and come through even stronger.
And after this result, the team is fourth in the constructor standings.
We're nearing the end of the season and it's time for some serious heat. Stay with us as Formula One moves to Mexico City.
Well, there we are then, the end to a crazy, crazy US Grand Prix there. Max Verstappen takes home the win ahead of Sergio Perez there. Lewis Hamilton, Russell from 17th on the grid there, almost took a podium away from his teammate. Bottas as well, a fantastic race by him, beating out Pierre Gasly there. Charles Leclerc, a good recovery drive ahead of Ocon. And I mean, to be honest for us, obviously with that fastest lap bonus point, we don't lose anything to Alpine this weekend. I don't think we could really ask for much more than that, especially when we look back to where we started there. I honestly reckon Oscar Piastri is my driver of the day there. Tsunoda as well, making good progress. Carlos Sainz, what are we meant to do about that Spaniard there? Never would have let that happen under my watch back when we were manager over at Ferrari there. But it does mean championship-wise, Max Verstappen came into this Grand Prix in P3. He now leads the way there, 9 points ahead of Charles Leclerc there, as Sainz goes from first down to third this weekend. It has been an absolute disaster for the Spaniard, but he needs to try and pick it up ready for the final 3 Grand Prix there. Gasly rejumps Fernando Alonso. I'd love to still try and get back past those couple of cars there, but I think Bottas has now cemented himself as best of the rest there. Ocon making some good progress, but still a little way behind both of our McLaren cars there. Ferrari still lead the constructors, but the gap now down to less than 40 points as we head into those final few races. Red Bull are not giving up just yet there. The gap stays the same to Alpine behind, but Alfa Romeo, with that good result there, just 17 points back with 3 races to go. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed as well, and we will return very, very soon with more F1 Manager, the career mode. None of these videos would be possible without the help of our channel members, so a massive thank you to all of the names you see on your screens currently for helping support the channel. You can join them by clicking the join button down below, and yeah, thank you once again to everyone that continues all the insane support on my work.